it really wasn't their fault that they were not married. They would actually want to find a partner. Um, it's just that men are intimidated by them because they're like high-powered women professionals.
This is episode number 615 with Dr. Sandy Toe. We're going to be speaking about why successful women struggle in love. Sandy wrote a book that was talking about women in China who are considered leftover women after age 27 when they don't get married because they focus on their careers. And I thought this would be a great topic for anyone who has focused on their careers, who has prioritized work over relationships, or who has struggled because of their success to find the love they're seeking. I'm Sandy Weiner. Welcome back to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late to go on your last first date. And to support you on your journey to lasting love, I've written 2 books, and my third book is at the editors, ready to be published hopefully in the fall. The first book is Becoming a Woman of Value, How to Thrive in Life and Love. And this book is for you if you have ever played small to make other people shine, if you've been afraid to use your voice, if you haven't known how to speak up and show up and stand up as a woman of value. It is filled with 30 tips, exercises, chapters that are full of stories and wonderful tools to help you thrive in life. And the second book was written for dating. It's called Choice Points in Dating. And this is specifically a guidebook for anyone who has ever struggled in dating. This will help you know how to think about dating, how to choose a partner, how to know whether to stay or go, and how to go on your last first date. So both books are available on Amazon for Kindle or paperback, and Choice Points is also available as an audiobook on Audible. This week's tip on becoming a woman of value is step number 22, communicate clearly and graciously. It is so important to be able to communicate your needs, your wants, your feelings. And most of us were never taught how, and we don't know how to do it with grace. And so both things are important, to do it with clarity, with grace, with kindness. And I teach these skills. It's just so important. And I want to share with you that if you don't yet know how to do all of that, I want to encourage you today, without doing anything else, without studying any other tools or ways to communicate, to just have the courage to start speaking up when your feelings are hurt, even if you just say, ouch, that didn't feel good. Can we talk about it? That will help you tremendously. So you're not stuffing your emotions, because that is so critical in having the relationships that you want. Before I bring my guest on, I want to invite you to join my Facebook group. It's called Your Last First Date. And we are an amazing group of women over 40 who are looking to go on their last first date. Some of them already have and have stayed in the group because it is such a kind and supportive place. I have very clear guidelines. I have 7 monitors. This group is really unique in the space of Facebook groups or any kind of group support, because we actually monitor the group so that we keep all unkind comments out. We keep out anything that really will not add to the group, but it is a place to come and share your triumphs and your challenges and get the kind of support that will help you grow and go on your last first date. So join us there. My guest today is Dr. Sandy Toe. She is a sociologist with a PhD from the University of Cambridge. She writes and speaks globally about women's partner choices on television, radio, podcasts, and seminars. She is the author of the acclaimed book, China's Leftover Women, which we will be talking about today. It's about late marriage among professional women and its consequences. And she's been featured in many media outlets like BBC, CNN, Time, Financial Times, Telegraph, and South China Morning Post.
Hi, Sandy. So great to meet you.
Great to meet you too. It's always fun having another Sandy on the show. My friend Melanie recommended that I get in touch with you because she used to have a podcast. We've been on each other's podcasts, Melanie Robinson, and She said, I think this topic would be really interesting for your listeners. And I agree. So I love the idea of talking about successful women who struggle in relationships. And you wrote a book about leftover women in China. So tell us a little
Mhm.
bit about what a leftover woman is and why you wrote this book.
The leftover women are women who are, well, according to an official definition, they're over 27 and they have high education level and like a successful career, but they're not married yet. And they're called leftovers because, well, they are sort of excluded from the marriage market. It's either like of their own accord or because of external circumstances. There wasn't really like a reason for that, and so I sort of set out in my research to find out the reason for them being like left over, and that was what like my research was about. It coincided with the leftover women phenomenon in China, and then I set out to interview a whole bunch of successful career women, professional women from in like the most cosmopolitan city in China and Shanghai, and that's where women from all over the world congregated to work in multinational companies. And I just like found out like the phenomenon was like more than a surface thing. Like there was like much more to that than meets the eye. So that was what my research discovered.
Well, that's cool. I mean, thank you for explaining a little bit about who you researched. And I remember when I first got into this work as a dating coach, I would tell people what I did for a living. And I was once at somebody's book signing in New York City. And this woman asked me what I did, and I told her, and she went, "Oh, I forgot to get married." And it was, I focused on my career. I forgot to get married. I woke up one day, I forgot to get married. And I think this applies to a lot of women who, for various reasons, focused on their career. They became very educated. There are definitely men who are intimidated by high education. So tell us a little bit about why these women did not get married.
There was the misconception, I think, that they were like too busy to get married or they were too focused on the work to find a partner. But it was not like that at all. When I set out to interview them, the majority had told me that I just couldn't find anyone. It wasn't because I was too focused on my career. I asked so many people to introduce guys to me. I went to matchmaking and like I tried like a whole lot of avenues to meet guys, but it's just that they weren't interested because when they heard that I worked in this company or I was a manager in this company or I had a master's degree from this place, they were just freaked out and they were not interested suddenly. And so that was their dilemma when I interviewed them. It really wasn't their fault that they were not married. They would actually want to find a partner. It's just that men are intimidated by them because they're like high-powered women professionals.
And it's an interesting phenomenon because, yes, there are definitely women who did forget to get married, and there are many who did not, but are finding it difficult to find a partner who wouldn't find their achievements to be intimidating. And I think that there are couples like this. I mean, we had a guy painting my house when I first bought this house. And he was this simple guy who painted houses for a living. And his wife was this high powered PhD, super smart, and they got along great. And so there are couples like that where you can have different classes, different levels of education. But a lot of these high status women or high powered women do not get married. So have you seen the opposite, like where people do get married and marry somebody who isn't at the same level of power?
Yeah, definitely. So that is why I figured out there were four different types of women. There was a type, as you said, that are like very high powered, and then they chose like a spouse who is lower status than them economically and maybe educationally as well. And they intentionally actually set out to find these men. Like they're the type that I term satisficers because they're satisfied with the goal of getting married, yet they're not looking for a main breadwinner man. So they're not looking for everything. They want to get married to someone who understands them, who's egalitarian. They're not looking for economic strength. So the satisficers, they're actually, I have a woman who is running her own business, and she's very, very busy. And she intentionally says, well, I need to find a man, my boyfriend. Like she has a boyfriend. She has, my boyfriend is actually taking care of the house for me, and I need to find a guy like that because who is going to take care of the family at the end of the day? Because I'm so busy with with my business and all, and we can't both be so busy. So I'm happy with a man like that who's like really egalitarian, like who doesn't mind like taking care of the house, who doesn't think that it's a woman's duty. So yeah, of course there are high-powered women like that who will intentionally find a man who's willing to, take care of the house for them.
Yeah, and then there are the stay-at-home dads, there are all those families where it works. I actually think that when you have two people who are clones, it usually does not work well because they're too similar. They're both so high powered. Their kids have, if they have family, their kids are being raised by other people. It's a very difficult thing, and yet so many people say, I want someone just like me. And so that I find to be a paradox.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because if a very high power woman, some of them there are traditionalists and they are maximizers and they want it all. Like those are people who want marriage and they want a man who is as successful than them, if not even, right? So there is this notion as well, but they would come across the difficulty because these men who are very high powered would of course have very strong patriarchal views. They would be like you can imagine like some man who's like a CEO of a company. Of course, he's not going to come back and like wash dishes or something. He's going to be quite like demanding, and he's going to be quite patriarchal. So there would be a clash, and then a man like that would also not want a woman coming back and being very bossy as well, right? They would actually want to come back to someone who's like more domesticated or more feminine or something. So that won't work. Like a very high powered woman and a very high powered man usually it would not work, as you said.
Yeah, there's a lot of clash. And also, I think what happens initially is there's exciting conversation. Maybe there's great sex. You're excited. You're having these great connections. And then when it comes to the day to day, which is really what relationships are, that's much more difficult. This is where somebody is a maximizer. They want it all. They want to also have different partners. They want to have lots of things that may not work in the long term. So we have the satisficers and the maximizers. What are the other two types?
There are the innovators who I find there's getting more and more of these types. As my research progressed after a while, I just found that like lately there are more people who are willing to accept non-traditional relationship forms. It's not that they're against marriage. They don't mind if they find a man who's suitable, meaning egalitarian. So they have the highest egalitarian needs and wants. They need a man who is very egalitarian and they don't mind about economics at all. So these women that they don't even mind if they don't find a man that's egalitarian, then they're gonna say, okay, then that's fine if I don't get married. I'll just find like some non-sexual, relationship groups, meaning female relationships. Or one of them had actually gone to find like a retirement home for herself in the future because she says, well, I've pretty much given up on the idea of having a relationship. I'm not going to find this a suitable man, and that's fine because I have looked at retirement homes already for my future. Because if I'm not going to like have a family or have children, then I can find someone else to take care of me. I won't be a burden to society, or I won't be left alone at home, like I don't have to, my parents don't have to worry about me because I'm all set. So there are
I,
people like very innovative. So they're called innovators.
yeah, I like that name, innovators. I think this is, like you said, it's becoming more and more common to not have traditional marriages and to look for relationships that are outside of the box. It's certainly true in my field as a dating and relationship coach that I help people figure out what type of relationship works for them now. When you take away all the societal pressures and all the societal norms of what we should do and look at what actually works for you. For example, living apart together is a big part of what happens to
Yeah.
people as they get older, right?
Yes, yes. LAT relationships. Yes.
Yes, yeah. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me because a lot of people are not wanting to combine homes or they fall in love with somebody who lives far away. If you're opening up your preferences and you don't need somebody to support you financially, but you get together every few days, every week, whatever works for your relationship. And I think if you take some of those societal norms out of the picture, you can open yourself up to a fantastic relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. So because they have families respectively. I mean, they have children respectively, and they just think it's not convenient, or they don't want like complications. They don't want to combine. They don't want to become a recombinant family per se. But they're enjoying each other's company. It doesn't have to be associated with a whole bunch of other people, right? So they just want their own company once, like maybe once a weekend or something. They spend time with each other, and also they don't want to relearn how to adjust to other people's schedules. That's another thing, because like if you're living alone for a long time, you as you get older, you have your own schedule, right? Your time you want to go to bed, the time you want to watch TV, what you want to watch on TV, what you want to eat every night. You just don't want to readjust for someone else. That might wreak like havoc for the relationship if you make so many of these adjustments, and you don't want to go through that again. So I think it's great that you figured out your own sort of relationship arrangement.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Music Unlimited. You can listen to over 70 million songs and thousands of playlists and stations. Plus, you can now stream your favorite podcasts like Last First Date Radio. You can listen to any song, anytime, anywhere, on any of your devices. Get Amazon Music Unlimited for free for 30 days. Just head on over to getamazonmusic.com/last first date to learn more and claim this offer. I get people all the time who say, well, I'm dating somebody, but he makes less money than I do, and I don't really like that. And I say, first of all, you have to figure out if that really is a deal breaker, because I've seen so many successful couples make it work when you don't have
Mm-hmm.
exactly the same finances or you make more. And I can think of one couple in particular that I worked with a woman, and she has more money, made more money, and so she loves to travel, and she will pay for certain things and he'll pay for other things. It's not a 50-50, and it doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think as long as you sort of negotiate uh, who pays what, or you negotiate the right arrangement, monetary arrangement, then it is fine. Like no one gets exploited, and that is important too. Because as you said, it's okay. Oh, you can pay for maybe if because you're richer, you pay for a bit of the big stuff, and I'll pay for the little stuff. But at least like they're making an effort to show that they're making some contribution, or even if it's planning. Like maybe you're really high powered and busy, and like let me plan the trip so that you're not paying and doing everything, right? So at least I'm contributing my effort and my time, my care, right? So that's good too in a way, because there are some women I interviewed who are rich, like quite successful, and then they're with someone who's less successful, but they feel a bit sort of exploited, like their resources are being exploited, because I guess the men they're dating, they're not showing enough sort of effort on their part, you know, that because they can't just be sort of taken care of as well. They need to find a way to show that they're contributing to the relationship as well. So I believe it's a matter of negotiation.
Yeah, communication, negotiation, and I think exploitation happens when people don't communicate and they get
Mhm.
resentful. They think, oh, well, you're just sitting around doing nothing. But have you really asked for what you needed? Have you discussed how they can contribute? And this
Mhm.
changes everything. It changes everything for the better. So we
Mhm.
have satisficers, maximizers, innovators, and one more. What is that?
A traditionalist. So they're like the most traditional. They're like the complete opposite of the innovators. They're very, very similar to the maximizers in that they have clear marriage goals. So they must get married, they must find a man to get married, and they want a man who's a traditional breadwinner type, like a chief earner. And they are not they don't mind scaling back on their own careers to take care of the family more. Like they're willing to play the traditional secondary earner. So it doesn't mean they're going to quit their job, but maybe change to a part-time job or um, scale back and take care of the family, be more domesticated. They don't mind as long as they're given the traditional arrangements in a marriage, right? So they're traditionalists, but how they differ from the maximizers is the maximizers like they want everything, but they're more progressive in their partner choice strategies. They would date outside their culture, or they would try to find a man who's older and more established. They don't mind maybe him being divorced or something, as long as he provides the resources, he's a chief earner, then that's fine. So for the traditionalists, they don't have such they're traditional, but they don't have such creative strategies. So they would ask like a whole bunch of people to maybe introduce men to them, go to matchmaking a lot, but they don't have like a very clear structure, a strategy. So that's their only flaw is that, to get out of their leftover status, they need to exert more creative partner choice strategies like the maximizers.
Interesting. So the traditionalist is pretty much how my parents' generation dated. The women generally took a back seat, but it's interesting in my parents' life and their marriage, my mother ended up making more. She started as a homemaker and quickly realized that they needed a second salary, and she was much more motivated than my father and went on after their divorce to make more and more money. And what was interesting is for her second marriage that happened when she was about 70, she married a man about 15 years older who was retired, and she was really happy in her career. And they did not know how to negotiate their differences. So I was watching this relationship unfold where she became resentful that he wanted her to be home more, and they didn't know
Mm-hmm.
how to talk about it and how to negotiate. So she ended up quitting her job eventually when he got Alzheimer's, unfortunately. And she was so resentful. Like it was really hard for her because she loved her work and now she became a caretaker. And so I think for people who are giving up something without negotiating, who are not happy because they're trying to accommodate, and I think that's the way a lot of older people think, and certainly people today too. But if you're not happy, then you've got to negotiate the differences. And so, yeah, what have you found in your research?
It's unfortunate that some women are expected to give up their jobs. And for like the women, they're not of your mother's generation, thankfully, they completely refuse to do that. Like even the traditionalist ones. So, you know what? Like even the traditionalists, some of them actually had a chance at marriage. They were given an ultimatum by their boyfriends to get married or quit your job and get married, or not quit your job and not get married. So the thing is, they had all chosen to not quit their jobs. Even for the most traditional ones that like they are really, really like pining to get married, they still would not feel respected. Like they refuse to give up their job just because a man told them to, because that's like disrespectful to just give you an ultimatum. It's like either I marry you if you quit your job. So it is very interesting because none of them, even the most traditional types, would accept this ultimatum. And
Interesting.
one of them, like she was with a man who's like very successful. He has his own factories and everything, and he's like 15 years older. Yeah, he's 15 years older, like your mom's husband. So she actually like it was great because he taught her a lot of things, and he's her mother's friend. So everyone loves him, except that he says he's ready to get married and he wants someone to be at in the home. So he said that you must quit your job if we're gonna get married, or else we can't. And then so she was like really shocked. She said, "Well, even though I really really like this man and I really want to marry him, and the day finally came that he proposed, he gave me this ultimatum." So I said, "No, because I'm ready to uh, go training in Singapore." Right. So I have this opportunity. My company is sending me for training in Singapore. So I've waited this long for that. Of course, she struggled like for quite a few years about this, but she just couldn't get past it. So she said, "No, I'm gonna keep my job."
It can be hard, especially if you're given an ultimatum. I don't think we should have to choose. I think, again, that's part of negotiation. And the best, most successful relationships that I've seen are where two people are really happy with their lives, where they both have fulfilling lives, and whatever that looks like to you. And so there are some relationships where I had a great friend who married somebody who she knew was going to be super busy all the time. He would not be picking up his socks. He would not be doing the things that she would have liked for him to do. And so from the start, she hired help. She
Hmm.
decided, okay, I can either yell at my husband and be really angry all the time, or I can hire somebody who's going to do the things that I don't want to do. And there are so many innovative ways that we can negotiate differences. I had a 23-year marriage where I worked at home. I developed my own career at home so that I could be home with my kids, but I also helped my husband with his career. And we both worked at home. So it was interesting, but there came a time where I felt he was always expecting me to be ready to help him at any point in time. And he would just like snap his fingers, it's time, I need help now. And we went to therapy over this and some other things. And I said, I'm happy to help you, but I need you to respect my time too. And so I told him I needed a heads up. I needed him to check in with me. And so again, negotiating, like we can make it work if we both feel respected and we both feel that our time is valued in whatever way we need it to be. And so it looks different for every single person, I think.
Yeah, yeah, completely. Well, I think that like everyone just wants to feel respected at the end of the day, right? So not just say like just given a choice, just out of the blue. So you either quit your job or you don't get married or something like that, or you have to drop everything and go pick up the dishes or do the laundry or something. So that is like totally not acceptable for women of these days, like for educated women, for women who have the choice to choose to opt out of marriage, right? It's not that we're stuck in the marriage forever because we can't take care of ourselves financially, emotionally, physically. There's like a lot of different ways that we could handle ourselves. So it's totally it doesn't make sense that we have to stay in like something that we're not happy in, right? So these women
Yeah.
are smart because before they have entered, the marital contract, they have said no to someone who they can foresee will ask them to make these choices in the future, or who will tell them to drop everything and all of a sudden just, hey, we need someone to stay home, so you better quit. Like, so they're doing it now. They're saying no now before they fall into the contract.
We've come a long way, but I think people still want companionship and they still want the romantic aspects of a relationship, and that's something you can't really do for yourself, right? So we're not depending on men for our finances, maybe, but we are still needing a man for other things. So one of the things, and I'm curious what you found in your research, I find a lot of very successful women. You mentioned the word bossy before, and this is something that a lot of successful women get accused of. They go on a date and they show up as bossy. In fact, Rachel Greenwald wrote a book called Haven't Met Hello.
I've heard of the name. Yes.
Yeah, so this book was this woman got her MBA, and for her thesis, she did exit interviews with 1,000 men about why they didn't ask a woman out again. And the
Mm-hmm.
women thought it was because they were intimidated. And the men said, no, it's not that I was intimidated, it's that the women were bossy, that they were like stuck in right or wrong thinking. They were telling me what to do. They weren't nurturing and warm. And I have found that to be true of a lot of women who are very high achievers, that this is how they got to be successful at work. And then when it comes to romance, they have a hard time putting that aside. It's not a competition, it's a relationship. And so I don't tell women to change who they are. I tell them to be aware of behaviors that can come across as off-putting and to bring out more of their nurturing side, more of their warmth, and not make dating a competition. So I'm curious what you discovered, if you have come across anything like this.
Yes, yes, totally. There are women of such who are very high powered, and they have told me in their own words that I am very strong at work, but I don't act like that at home. Yeah, so they are very specific that they don't act like that because of course, like no man wants to come home to like a boss woman, right? So I think that makes perfect sense, right? So it's one thing to to ask for respect from your husband, but or boyfriend, but another thing to demand it, right? So you're not treating them like your coworkers or your subordinates at work, right? So you have to so I have written something about like women being schizophrenic. Yes, we are. And yes, we need to. And yes, it is difficult. But it's something that we just need to do because we are very strong and high powered at work. And we're very, articulate and very outspoken. And that is how we got to where we are, obviously. But at home, in the meantime, we it's not that we have to act like wallflowers, but we do have to like tone it down a bit and become like more I don't want to use the word feminine, but more gentle and more low key. Like you're not going to keep talking work with your husband, and you're not going to keep boasting about your like your big business deal, or that you're gonna be up for promotion. You do need to keep their feelings in check as well, right? So I think it is difficult to strike a balance between work you and home you, but it's something that we just need to do, and we're good at it. So
Yeah.
it's hard to be a woman. I think it's hard, but I think we can do it because we are strong.
Well, I want to say it's also hard to be a man today. Is a lot of confusion about masculinity and toxic masculinity and how men want to be providers, but then they're knocked down for doing chivalrous things. And I mean, I've had women come to me and say, I never want a man to pay for a date. And I would be insulted if he wouldn't accept my payment. I mean, we have all kinds of things going on today. So our traditional roles of masculine, feminine are completely turned on their head today. And with the Me Too movement, we have men who are afraid to assert themselves, to make a move on a woman. Then we have women who want to make the first move, but they're afraid they're going to be perceived the wrong way. So I think we're all messed up today. And the most important thing, like you said, is to step into the roles that work for you. And I personally, as a woman who runs my own business, I have told men after I started dating after my divorce that I plan all day, and I love when a man makes a plan. It makes me feel supported. So just saying something like that out loud to a man makes him understand what makes you happy, and I think we need to do more of that.
Totally. I think that women they can be more vocal about what they want and not have the man guess because men are not good at guessing, right? So because their communication style is that they're very straightforward, they just say what they mean, but for women it's a bit like convoluted sometimes, right? Like they sometimes they say, oh, it's okay, but it's not okay. Right? The fact that they're saying it's okay means that they want you to continue to to probe more, to show your concern, right? So but men, they don't get the message. There's like mixed messages, as you say, especially nowadays, right? So I think that it is completely essential for women to speak up about what they want and not ask the man to guess, because if they guessed it wrong, then you're just gonna be the one seething, right? So
Right.
it's not good for either party.
I agree. I'm curious about your marriage. You're married, right?
Yes, yes.
And so, did you get married young? Were you a leftover woman? Like, what was your story?
Yeah, I was definitely a leftover woman. So I was,
Okay.
the regular marriage age for sure. Like when I got married, I was like past 35 when I got married. So that definitely made me a leftover woman. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to research on a topic of such. I entered into this topic in my PhD not necessarily because I was interested in the leftover woman phenomenon, because it just so happened coincided with this phenomenon as I was researching about single women's courtship. So, because I thought there was like discrimination in a lot of places in the world, like in at work and at within the marriage, within the household. So I was like, well, but no one actually does any research about the courtship stage. And I like at that time, I already felt that I was facing something like that because I can like never find someone who's interested in me or anything. So I had the feeling that, well, something's going on, so it may not just be me. So let me go out there and try to find other people who may be going through the same process, right? So that was my like agenda of entering into this topic for my PhD. And yeah, so I'm glad like eventually I did meet someone, and it was actually someone from my childhood. I was glad that he didn't he had we had actually met each other when we were in our teens. So can you believe it? And then we reacquainted through a mutual friend. So it's definitely very, very serendipitous, I would think. And I'm lucky to have met someone like that because if like out of the blue, someone would probably not want to see me as me. Like they would not want to go past the surface criteria. And I would be facing the same difficulties as my interviewees. But well, I'm lucky that I did eventually find someone and who accepted me for who I am. And yeah, so I actually am like I would call myself like everyone has a type. I believe that everyone has a type. So I had actually given myself a type as well. Look, I am actually a traditionalist slash innovator because the types are fluid. You can be one, like you can be one and then move to another because I'm traditional in my mindsets about marriage and everything. But I'm also very innovative in the fact that I can't just find anyone. I don't mind being single if I can't find someone. So marriage also may not be my ultimate agenda if there is no one for that, right? So I'm not willing just to be with like a very egalitarian man. Like I can't accept that.
Your husband, is he a higher earner than you?
Yes, because right now, like I have actually taken a break from academia and I don't teach anymore in university. I've stopped since COVID. And so I have been actually taking care of my son at home, and he works full time. And I do my writing, so and I do my research and everything. And so yes, he is actually the chief earner, and I'm lucky that I can get to do what I want,
Yeah.
and hopefully
I
I can revive. Well, actually, I'm hoping that I can like continue my career. Let's say this because I've taken a break off from having like my son for a few years because it is very, very demanding. And yes, it's very, very time consuming. And very, very it requires a lot of commitment. It takes a lot from me. Like I've been like completely hands on during at least 3, 4 years. So now he's finally grown up a bit. I have more time to pursue my career again. I can continue with what I left off.
And if you are a devoted parent who wants to be with their child, it is very consuming. And to be a good parent is time consuming, to really be attentive to your child's needs and have good conversations with them. And I mean, parenting is complicated. And I have a daughter who has three small children, and it's hard. She made a choice to stay home, and for a while she was working for herself while she was home, and then it became too
Mhm.
much. She was baking and doing these pastry chef kind of stuff and doing these very complicated cakes and cookies, and it
Mhm.
required time, uninterrupted time. It required ingredients that she couldn't always get. And she just said, this isn't worth it anymore. And so now she's finally going back to finding something that will make her happy. I think it's important to have something for you, no matter what. Like for me, creativity was always important. And so whether I was painting or doing something freelance while I was raising children, I always felt like I was taking care of me. And also exercising was really important to me. So, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's just got to work for both of you. And I'm glad you found somebody from your childhood. That's very cool. And it can happen to anybody, right? People meet people who had been married and divorced and didn't expect them to be recycled into the dating pool again. So you never know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Like I have met like friends who actually reconnected with someone from their past. They both had failed relationships and then they reconnected and then it worked out. So the timing was just right, I would say. So I believe in divine timing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
And I also believe like that like you are totally right. Like I think no matter if you're choosing to work or not work, it is important to have something that's yours that you can look forward to every day, besides the nitty gritty, besides your child. Of course, that is like very emotionally sort of satisfying as well. But as they grow up, you just feel the need to do something for yourself. I think it's time, it's me time again. And so, well, that is why, I've decided to write a second book because it's been a while. And then I just thought that like now I can consolidate like more information, update the information, and share it with more women, and have it sort of leave the ivory tower, sort of jump out and benefit women from across the world, like help them find partners. Because as I was told that like as you said, everyone wants some sort of intimacy. It may not even be marriage, but maybe find someone who's compatible with them, who can share something with them. So I don't think someone would act well, okay, let's say there are singles believers. Uh, uh let's not discount these. There would be people who are adamantly single, but this book is not for them. It's for people who want to find a partnership, right? So, respecting different people's choices. So yes, like if you are on the path to wanting to find intimacy, a partnership that's like pleases you, then I think that it's important to figure out what type you are and what you want and go for it, and not just wait for people to or not be influenced by like the discourse that we don't need a man anymore and that sort of discourse, because if you're just going to keep sticking to that, then it's your loss at the end of the day. It'll just be you and yourself, and acting cool but having no one, right? So I think that we need to detach ourselves from the discourse and like look at what we need.
Right. Go for what you need, not what has been traditionally known as the relationship that everybody needs, because it's not a one size fits all. I agree with that. And I'm glad you're writing this book because, it's a really interesting topic, the leftover women. And I think, you'll reach so many more women who are struggling to find love. I mean, that's why I do what I do every day. It's giving people the hope that they can design relationships. I believe relationships should be designer. And so do you have any other final words of advice for anyone who wants to go on their last first date?
Yeah, so if you are invested in going on your last first date and meeting the one, then I think that it is essential for you to figure out what you want. Like, and there's a very concrete way as well. It's not like just telling you about that, but figure out your first of all, your goal. Is it marriage? Is it finding a partner and getting married? And secondly, is it what are your economic views? Like, do you have traditional views? Like, are you looking for a breadwinner partner? Or are you looking for you don't mind finances at all, and you're willing to maybe take up the chief earner role, and you're not going to be resentful, or that as of now you won't be resentful because if you do change courses, it's fine. Like the types are fluid, right? So you may move to from a satisficer to a maximizer suddenly because you got resentful, right? So I have women like that too. So yeah, and third, figure out your egalitarian views. Like what are your views on egalitarianism? Are you looking for a very egalitarian man who will share the household roles, who will let you make your lifestyle choices, who won't be controlling your lifestyle choices, who won't make you quit your job all of a sudden? Or are you looking for um, a man? You don't mind a man being slightly, having patriarchal demands, right? So you have to figure out these few aspects, and then it'll be easier for you to find the right type of man.
Yep, I agree. The more clarity you have about your goals, who you are, if you know yourself really well, you're not going to walk around in the dark and you won't be blindsided by all the people that you date. I mean, it just helps so much to have this level of clarity. So I appreciate all that you shared today, Sandy. And if you can share a link, like maybe your website, and we'll have all the other links in the show notes.
Yes, 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 of course. Well, my website is just sandytoe.com, sandyto.com. It'll have info related to my first book and like the articles I've written regarding relationships, and also, how to deal with parents as well, and how to deal with cross-cultural relationships, and making choices in all sorts of relationship-related aspects. And also, of course, my blog, where I will share the latest regarding my second book and how it's progressing and when it's going to be out and what I'm working on and all those things.
Awesome. And you're all over social media, so we'll have all of those links. And good luck with your second book. Good luck with life and parenting and everything that you're juggling. And I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing this important information with us.
Very glad to be here.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for listening. If you love our show, please give us a high rating on Apple Podcasts and wherever you listen to podcasts. I think you can now leave a rating on Spotify. I'm not sure, but please share this with others and spread the word because we want you to go on your last first date. If you are ready to get unstuck, gain new tools, become more empowered, and finally find your last first date, I'd love to talk to you. Fill out an application to be considered for a complimentary half-hour love breakthrough session at lastfirstdate.com/application.